Welcome back this afternoon. We've got a lovely group of presentations, which, as we've talked about this morning, carry on the notion of healing and the way in which different groups of people have thought about what are the different processes that we can use working with survivors in the process. So I'm just going to get started, and what I hope, and what I should say, not just hope, is we'll have a little bit of time for some questions or comments at the end, and again, maybe people can bring things in for this morning, because I think the audience probably has, there's things that we'd like to ask or comment on. So we're starting with Vanna Dorota, who was the project coordinator of the Horizon Summer School that took place this year. So she joined the center in January 21 as the project coordinator for the Survivor Education Project. Prior to joining the center, she has worked in the voluntary sector with vulnerable women. Before entering the voluntary sector, she had worked as a copy editor and translator. She's a UCL alumni, and her background is in comparative literature. And then she did a postgraduate certificate in psychology and an MSc in child development. She is an alumni of the CLOR Leadership Program and is very deeply committed to social justice, upholding people's rights and beliefs in the power of education as a force for change. And I guess that links very strongly with the Survivor Education Program this summer. Melanie Dukakis did the work on navigating a new culture and life skills at the Horizon Summer School. Was a tutor on that. Prior to joining the project, Melanie had 15 years of diverse experience in the counter-human trafficking and modern slavery sector in both the UK and in Southern Africa, where the foundations of her work on these issues was laid in research, investigative journalism, and documentary production. Her work has been published in Time magazine, as well as in several reports and journals. So for those of us who are American and maybe older, this will make sense to you. She also received the coveted RTDNA, but the Edward Murrow Award in 2011 for Best Video Investigating Reporting as associate producer for ESPN's Outside the Lines. She, both undergraduate and postgraduate, she did cultural studies, media and communication, as well as the more recent MSc in international development, social anthropology. So her research interest remains in the root causes and prevention of slavery in a globalized world. So can I ask Vanna and Melanie, are you can stand or are you sitting here?
We sit and then stand for the video.
Okay, so.
Okay, good afternoon. And I'm going to be talking about the Horizon Summer School, which is a pilot educational program specifically designed for survivors of modern slavery and human trafficking. It took place over 6 weeks between June and July 2021. 3 days per week, 2 online and 1 on campus. On this pilot, 9 female students were recruited to the program. Before I speak on how the summer school came about, we play a recording that is a joint statement from the Horizon Summer School student who met on the 22nd of September, 10 weeks following the completion of the summer school, to discuss their experience of the program and feedback their thoughts on what they had learned and on the shape of future summer school. We invite you to listen, as this is the best summary of what the summer school was and how it did, what it did for the students, much better than what I will ever be able to do. So.
Good afternoon. I'm one of the Horizon Summer School students. I'm going to speak on behalf of my fellow students. We met on 22nd September to reflect on our experience of the summer school. Our discussion focused on 3 main points. what we learned about ourselves, what we learned from the subjects we were taught at summer school, what can be done differently for future summer schools. From this experience, we have learned that it is important to be open to new learnings, to be ourselves, to be positive, express ourselves so that we can communicate and be open-minded. Some of us came to the summer school with the idea that we only wanted to do certain subjects, and we couldn't see the need for attending all the classes. We couldn't see what benefits would be in attending them or thought we knew enough of a certain subject. We discussed why we thought in that way, and some ideas that came up were that perhaps we were set in our ways and lacked confidence in ourselves to face something new. We didn't want to disappoint ourselves by failing. During the 6 weeks of summer school, we have changed our minds and recognized that there is always something new to learn, that nobody is perfect, and being surrounded by people who are positive gives you the power to think positively, face challenges, and encourages you to move forward. We no longer think that we cannot do things, and we want to give ourselves the opportunity to try out without fear. One of us, who in the past was afraid of sitting in front of a computer and worried about being asked to do something, has recently been singled out by the teacher at another course she is attending to demonstrate to her fellow students the correct process to log in and set up online accounts. We have learned not to exclude possibilities because of a set way of thinking, or because it requires effort or lack of confidence, or worries about not being able to finish. We have learned to persevere. All the subjects were interesting, and we enjoyed them and learned something new from all of them. Our English language skills and IT skills have improved. We have learned to sew and about nutrition and healthy eating, how to write poetry and write better CVs, and learn techniques that will help us in our job search in the UK, how to budget and save money. However, in our discussion, we agreed that we have learned additional skills that are not strictly to do with the specific academic subjects. We think that because of the summer school, our communication skills have improved by interacting with different people and different cultures, sharing different kind of food and learning from others, respecting others, and not overreacting because we don't understand cultural differences. Our confidence has improved by sharing ideas with others and being confident of speaking in another language in front of people without fear of making mistakes. We have learned about teamwork and to change our routine and mood because you need to be ready and meet the team when the class starts. The summer school has given structure to our week and helped our mood by knowing that 3 days a week were planned. There was a purpose for getting out of bed and the house. We have learned about time management through the cooking classes. They have helped us understand the idea of planning ahead, prioritizing, choosing, and organizing. We have all been surprised that you can achieve so much in less than an hour. From the IT sessions, employability skills, and life skills sessions, we have learned about working with professionals coming from different perspectives, networking, doing research, and about London culture. The creative writing workshops have contributed to improve our writing skills, but also the confidence to share emotions and personal thoughts, knowing that there will be no negative judgment. The drama session was a great physical and emotional session that has helped us come together as a group and feel confident with each other. We have learned about problem solving and to ask for help when needed. We discussed future summer schools, and we think that there should be more drama and physical sessions, dance movement therapy, and singing. These can release stress, tension, and help people get closer to each other. We think face-to-face is a better model of delivery, especially when people have not had formal studying before, or it happened in the past, or English language skills are limited. It is much easier to ask questions in person than online when you cannot find the right words. There was a wide age range in our group, and face-to-face sessions would have been helpful. Creative writing and English lesson complemented each other, and we believe that more time should be dedicated to pronunciation, spelling, and conversation. In our discussion, we agreed that group work is important and beneficial, and more time should be allocated to that. The practical classes, such as fashion upcycling and human nutrition, were also important, in our view, because they were an opportunity for socializing, sharing ideas, and finding out more about the other students. They were calming and relaxing. We discussed if the summer school could be delivered 1 day per week, especially if the university was far from where students live. We agreed that this wouldn't be a good choice. Students would forget what they had done from 1 week to the next. In our view, 3 days per week is a good schedule, and the challenge of traveling can be overcome by delivering 1 or 2 days online if necessary. The summer school should last more than 6 weeks. Another 2 additional weeks would have made an even greater difference. As mentioned before, more physical activities should be added, more drama sessions and creative activities, and when possible, consults with future students for practical sessions. They may have skills such as knitting or beading that they may want to bring to the group and develop. It would also be good to give away as gifts products made in practical sessions or sell them to raise money to support other people in need. This is a summary of our discussion, and we all agree that the summer school has been a positive and enriching experience that we would recommend to other students, and we hope that there will be more in the future.
The summer school is a proof of concept pilot project based on the premise that education can be one of the key factors in the long-term support for survivors of modern slavery in Italy. It can have an important role in their recovery and integration. We all know that access to education is not easily available to survivors. There are barriers to do with language skills, immigration status, documentation, finances, adequate housing, poor physical and mental health, isolation, loss of self-esteem and confidence due to past traumatic experiences. The lack of educational provision is especially acute during the summer period, when community and further education colleges are closed and survivors are left with very little, nothing to do. Awareness of the lack of opportunities for education and of the many benefits that education can bring gave rise to the design of the Horizon Summer School. The Vaquita Center for Research on Slavery, Exploitation and Abuse at St. Mary's University secured funding from HSBC and Co. to develop a summer school for survivors in a university setting, and in our knowledge, the first of its kind in the UK. The aim of the project was to develop survivor skills, knowledge, and experience, which can lead to future opportunities to further studies or finding employment, widen survivor support network, improve their well-being, and welcome them into a new community. We were lucky that the program had access to extensive networks, partnership, and resources, both of St. Mary's University and the Vaquita Center, which enabled partnership and resources which enabled the right identification of potential candidates for the course, and a continuing package of support for the students beyond the summer school by organizations such as Sophia's Foundation, HERA, and Bright Future, which offer both educational and employability programs, valuable advice and guidance from organizations such as Bakita House, Ellen Bamber Foundation, and the Free Thinking Program, Salvation Army, Human Trafficking Foundation, and specialist training for all the tutors and support staff. There were challenges on the way to overcome, which I won't speak of here, but it is important to highlight that the Horizon Summer School was successfully delivered between June and July 2021, following a long delay due to the COVID pandemic. As I said before, there were 6 weeks of intensive learning, 3 days per week, 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and ended with the graduation ceremony, which saw the students come to the front of the room, this very room here, and to everyone's surprise, deliver impromptu speeches to the audience. The students' feedback you heard in the recording is proof that the summer school has contributed to their journey of personal growth, recovery, and reintegration. Education can change people, empower them, it can improve their future opportunities, enable the acquisition of new skills, to gain employment eventually, pursue further study, and rebuild lives. Education can develop people's esteem, self-esteem, and contribute to the healing process by giving survivors the tools to change the way they see themselves, speak about themselves, and how they can contribute to the community. I'd like to conclude by saying that the summer school has been an innovative and creative project, and I will outline why we think that. It has brought together, it's been a collaborative project, very much so, and it has brought together voluntary sector organization and a higher education institution. This is very important. The successful delivery of the summer school is a proof that it is possible to embed a project specifically tailored to meet the needs of survivors in a learning environment designed to cater for more conventional students. Universities are important institutions in the community. They are established and recognized centers of learning. They have and confer status. They have facilities and they have resources. You have access to experts in teaching. There is a fully equipped learning environment, like library, IT, career services, and other facilities like sport and recreation. They are quiet. We look at St. Mary here, quiet and reflective spaces with green areas, away from survivors often cramped and unsuitable living environment. The project has also introduced a specific supporting role as a novel thing, the role of course navigator, designed to support my role, the project coordinator for the duration of the 6 weeks, and with a specific responsibility for directly supporting the students. Taking part in an intensive learning program in a new environment can cause anxiety and trigger insecurity, unwanted past memories, and undermine what little confidence, if any, survivors may have. The course navigator was the consistent, supportive presence for the student in class and in one-to-one sessions to ensure that if there were any difficulties, they were picked up on time and assistance was offered. As part of this role, my colleague Melanie and I assisted the students and met with them on one-to-one tutorials and facilitated daily reflection sessions. The third part of this innovative point of this program is that it devised a curricula which included the provision of enriching activities such as passionate cycling, creative writing, drama, human nutrition, which, as the summer school students point out in their statement, enabled both additional learning not strictly related to the academic subjects and created an environment where survivors could relax, talk informally, and learn more about each other, an environment that felt comfortable and enabled other spaces of learning and healing. My colleague Melanie will speak about these other spaces of learning and healing. And I finish here by saying that I feel lucky to have been recruited to work on this project and to have witnessed how it positively impacted on our students.
Good afternoon, everyone. So yes, in addition to my role as facilitating the lessons on navigating a new culture and life skills, I was also the course navigator on the program. And in my role as course navigator, I was in a unique and privileged position of walking with the students and observing as they journeyed through the program. And while my observation was to ensure that I would notice any difficulties or struggles that they were having in their learning, so I could come alongside and offer support. This also essentially brought about an awareness of their individual personalities and the transformative effect of their learning. What started to become really clear early on was just growing ease and growing enjoyment of the lessons they were participating in and of the supportive community that they were forming. But to the surprise of the students, however, two of the enriching activities that Vana mentioned in the program, the creative writing and the drama sessions, were especially powerful. And I just want to talk a bit on those now. These sessions were evident catalysts for opening up a different kind of learning space, one where the students could explore their thoughts, have time to reflect on themselves and their identity in a different way, where playfulness and creativity were encouraged, and in which a great deal of joy was sparked. In the creative writing, the students learned to think about and use words differently to what they would in normal English lessons. They were encouraged to let their imagination and memories think up combinations of words, any that they could come up with in association with the theme they were given, and also encouraged to use repetition and alliteration. There was initial hesitation from the students and also fear when presented with this kind of working words. There was fear of using words incorrectly, but also of sharing what they'd written. One of the students delighted that the memory she thought of in relation to the word river could be teased out in words that could portray this memory for others. And another, who was initially filled with anxiety to speak out aloud in class, read her poem to her peers at the end of the final lesson, with a tremble in her voice, but with determination and pride. The pleasure, applause, and encouragement shown by their peers upon the reading of a new poem brought beaming smiles to each reader's face. As one of the students said of the creative writing and their teacher, Ezra Harkershaw, who's not here today, creative writing was one of the subjects I was more afraid I will not like, but was totally a surprise. I enjoyed a lot, especially the teacher, one of the persons I really needed in this period to get me inspired. The extended drama session that we had on the final day was altogether an unexpected and different kind of exploration, with physical release in moving, singing, running, playing instruments, and much fun was had by all. This session allowed the loosening of inhibitions, the expression of feelings, coming together as a group and trusting each other. St. Mary's University's ebullient drama teacher, Olasholo Olayele, who is sadly not here today as well, skillfully led the class and the staff to the point where we were all comfortable enough to create human sculptures. The session came with much laughter, but also with much personal courage and exposure of vulnerability to visibly depict feelings such as anger, fear, and joy. This was followed by a spoken word exercise with the ladies writing and reciting beautiful pieces inspired by pictures that they had selected that Olasholo had presented. With memories, thoughts, and emotional realities tapped into expressed and accepted and respected. The sense of well-being after the session was palpable. These enriching activities that took the students on a journey they hadn't expected and had not thought of as necessary at the beginning of the program were ultimately the most profound. These lessons, along with their 6 weeks of being in an environment that fostered belonging, where they were understood, supported, and encouraged, allowed them to journey into a deeper part of themselves. And from a sensitive observer's perspective, into their true selves, the one quietly waiting underneath the label of survivor or asylum seeker. This, for me, was a profound thing to witness. Seeing healing happening through learning. And not just any learning. For me, it was clear that it was learning with the imperative of allowing the students to explore their identity, learn about themselves, see themselves from a new perspective, and come back to themselves. Thank you.
Well, do we have time for this or not?
I think if we can come back.
Yeah.
But do you want to say these photos
Yes.
are available?
This is the booklet that has been produced by the summer school with the poems written by the students. They're over there, and you're very welcome.
I think this really tapped into so many things this morning, hearing about the way people accompanied people on this journey of learning. It tied in with Anna, the imagination and then the body working together. So there is so much synergy around this. Can I now move on to ask Karen Anstis, who is a part of the project team that developed Karita Bakita House, having spent 31 years previously as working as a police officer. She worked in the first in terms of sexual offenses, instrumental in creation of Sapphire unit, which investigated sexual violence. She began to work with the trafficking team in 2009, and I met Karen in 2014 and helped set up the Bakita House in 2015. And Karen is going to be speaking along with Melissa Ramadan, who's the Bakita House drama therapy, working as an intervention. She's a registered drama therapist and has been working in Bakita House since 2016, where she was a volunteer, then became a locum support worker before setting up the drama therapy service in 2019. She also currently works in medium secure forensic mental health work with mentally unwell patients, and she's been head of a training. So again, I think we're seeing the synergy between identity, learning new skills, finding yourself, and body here. So, Karen. Thank you.
Hi, so I am Karen from Karateskater House. We are a safe house for women fleeing exploitation. And this is, I'm hoping Belle's going to put the slide on. Yes, you are looking at the most handsome cat in London. He is called Marley, and we will come back to him later because he is part of the team. You're also going to see when I'm speaking, so you don't have to look at me, pieces of artwork from the women that I've worked with and writings by each woman as to why they've done that bit of artwork. I refer to these women as guests. There's been a lot of talk about words that we all use, and what do you call them? Well, I call them by their name, but I can't do that in an open forum, so I refer to them as guests. So our guest artwork will come up for you to, so you can't read it with those little boxes down. What can we do think about? I won't touch it because it'll break, but I'll crack on. Right, we opened on the 30th of June 2015. 141 women from 43 countries aged between 15 and 70 years have passed through our doors. Each one an individual, each one with their own needs, and most importantly, own pace of recovery. In our third year, we commissioned a review on our service. From this, it became very apparent we needed to offer the women more avenues of therapeutic care. This led to activities that are therapeutic and the provision of an in-house creative psychotherapy service, which Melissa will talk about after me. The women have responded really differently to various types of therapeutic care. But what we do know is a choice is needed so they can find an avenue that suits them personally, and for it to be of benefit, they need to want to take part. I apologise for reading today, but I've actually asked those that have led some of the therapeutic activities, such as art, gardening and yoga, to write about the benefits they've seen for the women. So I will be reading. Art by Sister Doreen. What I learned from our guests at these sessions were more about pastoral interaction and sports than about art. It was a time to listen, not just with my ears, but particularly with my heart, to be sensitive to the needs of each one present, to be aware when space was required and when a hug or physical contact was needed, to be ready with generous and sincere encouragement, or simply to stand back for a while. I very simply opened creative doors and journeyed with the guests as they rediscovered their inner beauty and discovered their dormant and hidden personal gifts. Art and creativity touch our whole being, and for the women who were deprived of being the unique and wonderful person they were created to be, art can be a challenge. From their experience of cruel control and enslavement, I was encouraging them to make choices, helping them to build their confidence by making personal choices, supporting them in the realisation that every choice they made has a consequence. Art is about choices, techniques, styles, colours, forms, choice of materials. The results depend on the choices made. Many of our guests said that getting lost in the art helped them to forget their pain and frightening memories for a while. The work is about personal relationships, but also about setting healthy boundaries. It's about listening and being sensitive to their pain, but not carrying their pain. It's about loving, but not enslaving. It's about bringing the guests to an inner and outer freedom and supporting their great hope for a realistic future. Great emphasis on truth on all levels is essential. False hope is always destructive. Art comes from the heart, and when your heart's hurting, perhaps broken, art becomes a challenge and a release. I'm so proud of the guests for trying so many different art techniques during the art session, but for me, my real happiness was when I saw the joy and pride of the guests when they produced a work of art they did not think they could accomplish. One of the guests said this to me when I asked her about art. For me, art has meant a lot at this stage of my life. It was like a lifeline or a hand that held mine to help me out when I felt I was drowning. I never thought that making art would help me strengthen my mood, reduce my anxiety, and gradually overcome my depression, but most importantly, increase my will to live. I remember one day when everything was dark. I couldn't find a way out or consolation for my anguish and despair. That day, I had no illusion or desire for anything, just to cry. My mind was closed, no idea came to me to create. Right at that moment, I felt the support and understanding of the teacher and the manager. They didn't say anything, they were just there with me. Their presence and company comforted me. Little by little, I opened my heart, feeling more liberated and encouraged and eager to learn. Now I'm hopeful, and I think it's not too late for me, that I can create something beautiful and leave a good legacy. Art is the wand that touches your imagination to create magic. Gardening by Sister Anna. Lockdown opened up gardening as a new challenge as our volunteer gardener was not able to look after it anymore. It's been a valuable experience, and the more guests were involved over time in the work, the more it became our garden, a sanctuary, a place to enjoy and find peace. With involving guests in working through all areas of the garden, it's become apparent that every guest seems to find meaning in certain tasks. Some find weeding therapeutic, others like the deadheading of flowers, others prefer to sow seeds, others like hand-on jobs like working with the spade or the handsaw. One current guest has now taken up gardening as a hobby and even wants a job as a gardener. The external factors one has to face up to, like storm or heat, or invasive creatures like snails and aphids, are part of the enterprise. To accept circumstances and to allow disturbances is an important learning. For the caterpillars, we've been keeping a window box with Carol, which has been eaten away, But the other cow, we collected the caterpillars and one of the support workers took them home so her 5-year-old daughter could benefit and see the life cycle. She fed them, they grew into butterflies and released into freedom. Gardening is a process, it's change, and getting involved, one can not only make a difference, but also feel a difference. Gardening has an impact on others, the plants, the creatures, the soil, the whole of nature. It provides a sense of being part of something greater. Gardening offers a way to engage, to care, to protect, to support, and to look after. With most guests, it comes quite naturally, wandering mindfully along the borders, taking in the colours, textures, and scents. And the garden gives so much back, it actually looks after us. One of my guests said to me, I do gardening for my pleasure. Nobody pressurises me to do it. I like gardening because I put seeds in the ground, I can see how they grow. When I work in the garden, my body relaxes. I feel happy and it is beautiful. Yoga by Zara. Through the practice of yoga, we aim to bring the opportunity for mindful movement, healing and connection. Our nurturing teachers have a background in psychology and therapy, sharing our ethos of stronger together in all that they deliver, encouraging a space where collectively we can learn from one another through moving, breathing and meditating. The amazing women at Paquita House have been practicing with us for many years, adapting virtually when needed throughout the pandemic. It's a true privilege to witness the incredible journey of awareness and self-discovery, encouraging the possibility of enabling physical, mental and emotional shifts through group experience. Quote from the guest. I think yoga is good and important practice for me because I can work the body completely. Emotional energy, mental, physical, spiritual and vibrational. After practice, I feel more aligned, balanced and connected to myself. I believe this helps me a lot in my daily routine as a whole. It makes me feel better, make better decisions, self-control and be much more aware. So, we should never forget that an individual can find comfort in many ways. Some of our women have been known to clean excessively. It's almost like they're washing away their traumatic memories, or they exercise. So we supply gym classes and dance classes. One of the guests said to me, I have to concentrate, Karen, so my mind is occupied on what I'm doing now, not on the bad things that have happened. It's the way of release. Let's get back to the most handsome cat in London, Marley. Even favourite. Research shows people become more relaxed, open, and have an increased sense of safety when an animal they have developed an attachment to is around. This is from Peacock, Sher-Hansen and Winefield, 2021. So Marley, our house cat, is a big, fluffy cuddle. You visibly see women relax and smile during a cuddle with him. He will often appear by a woman who's upset, and he just seems to calm them without the power of speech, just by being there, which many of us could do. But from one more quote, I've used everybody else's words today, so let's end with some words from a sister. She said to me the other day, Karen, the Paquita House is like a big bunch of colourful flowers. You're all very different, but together you make a wonderful arrangement that brings much happiness. So I think that sums up therapy, really, doesn't it? It's when we reach out to somebody to try and help them, and there's not anybody that is not capable of doing that. It's just a matter of being kind. Please remember to do that in all walks of life. Thank you.
Okay, Melissa.
Hi everyone, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
And I'm really sorry that I can't be there today. Interestingly, my presentation is entitled Finding Emotional Safety, and today I am the emotional safety for my 1-year-old who is very unwell, and so I am his safe place, which is why I need to be at home with him today. But I'm very sad that I can't be there. So yeah, the presentation is called Finding Emotional Safety. I was thinking about the word safe. Paquita House is a safe house. We're providing physical safety for the guests, but we also want to provide emotional and psychological safety, helping them to find that safe place inside. I think Anna mentioned earlier about bringing the body home. So finding that safe place within ourselves and with others. I particularly like this picture because it sort of reminds me of like a cave somewhere deep in the body. It looked like it could be the ventricle of a heart, or somewhere inside where we can just feel safe with ourselves. So I'm going to be talking today about the Arts Therapies Service. I just wanted to start with a little quote about safety. I think we've already heard from Bessel van der Kolk today, but I will be quoting him a few times. Being able to feel safe with other people is probably the single most important aspect of mental health. Safe connections are fundamental to meaningful and satisfying lives. And I think that this quote really sums it up. It can seem very easy to say, let's find safety, but actually it's a really long process for these guests who have been through unimaginable trauma. So as I said, I'm talking about drama therapy today. I am a drama therapist, but I'm also here representing music therapy as well. So we've set up an arts therapies service together, myself and Lorraine. She's sorry she can't be here today, but I will be talking a little bit about her work as well. So I think there's already been a little bit of background on me, and that I started in the house as a volunteer. I then moved on to become a locum support worker, running a therapeutic drama club on a fortnightly basis. And I then moved on to becoming the house drama therapist. And then shortly after that, Lorraine joined as the music therapist. I have a background in training around modern slavery. I was the head of training for a charity that educated children and young people on modern slavery. I realise in my presentation there's quite a few words here and there. They're more for me than for you, so feel free just to sit back and relax and listen. For example, this has a lot of words, but actually it's more for me to pick out what Lorraine wanted to share with you all. So please don't feel like you need to read everything that's on my slides. But this is Lorraine. She cannot be here because she's actually getting married, which is a lovely reason to be absent, but I know she would love to be here. She started with the house through the Sophie Hayes Foundation, which I think has been talked about today. So she was the awareness lead and an employability coach for the Day 46 programme. And that's how she got to know Bakita House. And sort of similarly to me, she started as a locum support worker while she was training in her MA in music therapy. And we actually graduated the same year. So there was a sort of lovely parallel to our journey into the house. And together we've been working with Karen and all the staff at the house and the guests to develop this arts therapies service. So I'm a very visual person. I love pictures. I tend to think in pictures. I believe pictures are worth 1,000 words. So I've got lots of pictures in my presentation, and I wanted to show some photographs of the house and the spaces that we work in. So this is the drama therapy room, which is quite a small room, but it's a private room upstairs in the house that I keep quite open in order to engage in movement work. But there are a range of materials available for the guests to engage with. And then we have a different room downstairs. This is the quiet room, and this is where the music therapy takes place. And as you can see, Lorraine has a wide range of different musical instruments that she's able to offer the guests. So a little bit of background on the arts therapies. So arts therapies is an umbrella term. It includes drama therapy, music therapy, art therapy, and dance movement therapy. And essentially, these are all gentle psychodynamic psychotherapies. So when we say psychodynamic, so psyche, the mind, and dynamic is about between, the relationship between. So it's about the relationship between the client's mind, heart, soul, body, and the therapist's mind, heart, soul, and body. It's also about the relationship that that client has within themselves. So the relationship they have with the different parts of themselves, with their body, their sense of identity. The therapy offers containment of difficult psychological experiences and feelings. So it's there to hold this safe space. Safe is a word I'll be using a lot. It's about really providing that sort of nest, really, where they can have an unconditional positive experience of any feeling, any experience that they bring to that room and to that relationship. The focus is on repair, and repair is probably one of my favourite words as a therapist. We are all here today because we want to repair, I think. We can't change the trauma. We can't undo the trauma that has been done. The past is the past, and these experiences will stand in these people's lives for the rest of their lives. But what we can do is try to look at the relationship they have to that trauma and start to help them to explore their identity and draw on the strengths they have to heal themselves. I strongly believe that everyone within them has what they need to heal themselves, and it's about being alongside them while they try and engage in that repairing process. The arts therapies sometimes can be a little bit misunderstood. There is no need for any experience of drama or music or art or dance. They are just offering a creative way to engage in the therapy, but we also talk. So the creativity sits alongside verbal discussion, and it's there to help deepen the work, not to replace talking therapy. It's about a combination, offering a combination. The work is client-led. So I have clients who want to sit and talk for the whole time. I have clients who don't want to talk at all and who just want to move. I have clients who just want to engage in story making or play. So it's all about what the client wants. I mentioned this before, but it's all about building a safe relationship between the therapist and the client. And it's the relationship that heals. Karen was talking about the flowers and how we're all flowers together, and it is about the community and the relationships that we're building, that trust. I think another speaker earlier talked about trust being so difficult, and it is really fundamental to that feeling of safety. The beauty for me with the arts therapies is that we not only have that relationship, we also have the medium, so we have the creativity. So sometimes for people who have experienced trafficking, some of the work I've engaged with, sitting and talking about their story can feel sometimes a little bit confrontational. It can feel a little bit too raw. And so having the creativity in the room allows us to be, rather than sort of face to face and talking about this difficult trauma, we can be alongside one another and engaging in the creativity. We can place the trauma in the music or in the story or in the movement piece or in the character. And so we're alongside one another, exploring the trauma from a safe distance. Actually, there's some distance in placing it in the creativity, so it can be a safer way to explore. Just a little bit on trauma. I'm sure that we've had a lot of discussions about that today already, but just a little bit on the response the body has to danger, that we sort of go into this alarm mode. One of my clients talks about her internal alarm just goes off all the time, and it's about trying to find ways to calm it. I know Anna was talking about the body and finding ways to relax the body and make the body feel like home again. The research has shown that we have different responses to danger and to trauma, and that is either to flee, to fight, or we become frozen. And even the freeze is a sort of protective response, because actually we're numbing out so that we don't have to engage with how painful this feels. And the body goes into this alarm mode when the danger is present, And with post-traumatic stress disorder or complex trauma, what happens is that this alarm system continues going off when, maybe a smell, maybe a sight, maybe a word, maybe a colour, maybe an image will set the alarm off, even though physically, practically, the individual seems safe, that there doesn't seem to be any physical danger present, but they don't experience it that way. Their alarm system goes off and their whole body just wants to either fight, flee or freeze. So we're looking at ways to really connect with the body. I remember one of my tutors saying to me in my course that we're not heads on sticks. So we have hearts, we have stomachs, we have gut instincts, we have bodies, all the bodily sensations that are going on for us. We need to try and connect with those to help self-regulate and calm that alarm system. So Van der Kolk, again, his work on trauma is just so groundbreaking and important. He talks about the effect trauma has on the brain. So he says images of past trauma activate the right hemisphere of the brain and deactivate the left. The left half of the brain does all the talking. So what he's talking about there is research has shown that during a traumatic event, during that moment of danger, the part of the brain that deals with language can shut down. And so when we're trying to find words and meaning and language for the trauma, actually it can be incredibly difficult to find words and explain what's happened. And so starting with the body, just to try and bring the body into a safe place so that we can build up to bringing language in, can just be a really gentle way to start engaging with some of these incredibly traumatic experiences. So let's come to the guests in the house. I've worked with a range of guests from 16 to 60. They come from all different countries, as Karen mentioned, Bulgaria, Hungary, New Zealand, South Africa, the Philippines, Vietnam, Romania, Kenya. The list goes on and on. They come from a variety of different backgrounds. Some of them have experienced sexual exploitation. Some of them have experienced domestic abuse, being involved in gang warfare, drug cultivation, working in factories. But they've all experienced some form of physical, verbal or sexual abuse. A lot of them have also experienced early attachment trauma. They are separated from the people that they feel safest with. But they're not just this. They're also mums, they're daughters, their sisters, they're lovers, their friends, their wives. They're artists, they're singers, they're gardeners, they're cooks, they are so many things. And it's about trying to bring all of them together so that they don't, I think, again, someone mentioned earlier, that they are not just survivors of what has happened to them. So I had a little test run with Dan earlier, so I'm going to see if this works, but I've got a few images here of some of the themes that have come up in the work, and I just would like to invite this out to the floor, actually, to the audience, to just shout out any words that come to mind of potential themes that have come up in the therapy based on these pictures that you see. There's no right or wrong. It would just be lovely to open it up to some other voices.
Anyone want to shout something out?
Evil.
Evil, yeah.
Okay. Color, somebody said.
Yeah.
Anger.
Anger.
Yeah.
The picture here is who are you?
Shadow.
Yeah.
Shadow.
Fear, rage.
Explosion.
And I've got another slide as well with these pictures.
Tragedy. Falling.
Friendship.
Beauty.
Chaos. Confused.
Somebody online is saying detaching. Melissa, are you?
Yes, I am hearing all of this. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so you guys have actually captured so many of the themes that have come up in the sessions. A real common one is loss, overwhelm, anger, sadness, but also there is this feeling of wanting to be happy, actually, this pursuit of hope and happiness. And I often find in my sessions that I have to really remind the guests that it's okay to feel how they feel. There's often this feeling of wanting to maintain. You can see this lady in the top right hand corner with the tears and the smile, that sometimes it's really difficult to own their sadness because it just feels too painful, and it's trying to provide enough trust and safety that they feel that they can really acknowledge what they've been through.
Melissa, could I ask, I think Karen was just saying you've got 2 case studies because we're kind of running over.
Yes, sorry, I am running a little timer for myself, but I will speed up. So they're just some of the aims, which I think, will probably be quite clear from the work we've already done today. So I'll move on. So my first case study is drama therapy. This is a client I worked with. I'm going to call her Tanya. That's not her real name. She's 43 years old and she's from Brazil. And she experienced sexual exploitation in the UK, prostitution, threats of violence. And she had 3 children in Brazil that she was trying to support and send money back to. So the work with her started through making stories. So she would make a story every week. She wanted to use Disney characters. So you can see we've got some Disney characters here. And it would start with sort of everyday stories of daily tasks that the characters would engage with, eating, cooking, going to the gym. Then we began life mapping using a family tree with the Disney characters. And actually this family tree became her family tree over time. Then she started to choose some different images, as you can see, that sort of had a little bit more depth to them. And her stories became a bit more fantastical, imagining the as if of what her life could be. And then towards the end of our time together, she actually told a story using images, and she said, "This is my story." And we then physicalized this story without words. And there was a real powerful moment of her physicalizing this story for me and us being in it together, and me witnessing her story. And she said after the therapy, she said, "When I'm with you in therapy, it makes me strong, makes me forget my sorrows, my past, my pain. For me, it's like an eagle flying, forget everything and fly high. Therapy helped me to be a better person, to respect more, to talk less and listen more, and take some of the sadness out of my heart." Please don't be overwhelmed by all the words. It's just a very quick case study for music therapy. So Lorraine worked with Maria. She was 52 years old from Colombia, and she had been exploited through domestic abuse and forced labour. She'd also been, there was also sexual abuse in her background as well. And she expressed a lot of feelings of isolation and grief at being separated from her family. So Lorraine engaged in a lot of musical improvisation with her, breathing, vocal techniques, songwriting, and they played the guitar together. And this was used to sort of help Maria to express her inner world and to bring it out into the therapy space and to enter a more relaxed state. In the last 2 sessions, Maria spontaneously created a song in Spanish, and the therapist supported her with this on the keyboard. And the song spoke of her faith, a core part of her identity, and gave Maria the opportunity to express that part of herself. Just 2 last quotes from me. What I find particularly helpful about drama therapy is to express my emotions through my body rather than through speaking, and self-confidence. And with music therapy, yes, I would recommend music therapy, especially people who, like me, tend to shut up and hide things. And with this, we learn to externalize it. I really believe in creativity. I really think it can help to create. That's the key word, isn't it? Is to create a safe space within that we can try and go to when the trauma feels too overwhelming. So I'm just ending with this lovely quote: "Being creative can master trauma." It's a very, very, very slow process. And I think the gentle, slow process is key to this work. Thank you, everyone. I'm really sad that I can't be there, but thank you for listening. It's very strange not being able to see you all, but thank you for your time.
Can I say thank you, Melissa and Karen, for this? And I think one of the great things is this is being recorded, because I couldn't fizzle my neck around, but I think there were so many images that we can go back and see, and the quotes, and listening to this again, because I think it's hard to absorb this all. But I think, you know, the journey that we're making across these days between identifying this terrible kind of thing, abuse, but the way in which using a variety of different techniques to work with, walk with, accompany with, create with, survive to move on this journey towards more independence and identity and self has been great. Our final presentation this morning, and I think this afternoon, we'll have a bit of time that we could have some sort of comments and things, is I have Magdalene Adenike, who's the CEO of Music Relief Documentary, which has been serving grassroots communities for 10 years. She's a fellow of the Royal Society of Arts, a recipient of the very prestigious BE Mogul Award, and for the most influential and inspirational entrepreneurs in the Black business industry. And she's going to be talking her work around music relief. So I think you're going to talk, and then there's...
No, we're going to show the video first.
Okay, so we're having the video first.
Yes.
Magdalene Adenike, founder and chief executive of Music Relief Foundation, a youth charity working and supporting young people and their families within the grassroots communities for over 10 years. We support families and their children through our diverse programs, through our Enriching Lives, which is our holiday program, through after-school club support, music school, where they come in for vocal training on music instruments, but also through our intervention and prevention workshops that we deliver in schools, called More Than Able, which lent its name from our knife crime campaign that we launched in 2019. With More Than Able, we understood that, yes, we started working with knife crime and looking at young people who unfortunately are already involved with criminal activities or vulnerable and on the verge of being involved. But also we've seen that with that comes other layers, just like an onions. You look at issues of county lines and how you can correlate the issues of knife crime and county lines and put it under that banner of human trafficking. In March 2021, this year, we also launched our skills and employability program for 16 to 25-year-olds called Change. As a youth group, we started off working with just the young people, but we understood that if we just work with the young people and not work with their families, it's a case that we continue to support the young people, because if they're going back home to dysfunctionalities, we're having to restart the work that we've already done. So our work is very much holistic and looking at the wider circle and looking at how best we can support them when they come to us with one issue. But once you begin to create a relationship and create a rapport, you begin to find that there are other things that need help as well.
Music Relief does a lot of work in and around South London, taking kids off the streets and letting them record music. How important do you think that is to the local area and to the kids?
That's massive, because obviously just taking kids off the street and the fact that it's free, they can do something that they enjoy instead of just hanging around is big, so that will help massively.
You've been to quite a lot of club events in schools, so Music Relief also work along with the Palace for Life Foundation. Have you noticed the foundation doing more as well over the years? Yeah,
definitely. Me personally, I used to go to a thing called Kicks as well, and it's just, I used to see firsthand what it would do. Like some of the friends that I used to see hanging around my parents' house or whatever, my parents' area, would go to that instead of just chilling, doing nothing really. So it takes a lot of kids off the streets and it helps them, gives them a bit of hope really.
And bearing in mind the way Music Relief has changed some kids' lives, what message would you give to people in order to get them to support Music Relief and help them to carry on?
I'd say get behind it, because kids are the future really. So the more kids we get involved in those stuff, and it's the more kids we take off the streets, and obviously that just helps everyone really.
Yeah, I'm really trying to get paper. Move for me if you're being a hater. No. Sometimes I feel more love from a stranger. I beg your God, please don't leave me from danger. Yeah, I'm trying to succeed. Trying to make this P, trying to make ends meet. Yeah, I'm trying to succeed. Trying to make this P, trying to make ends meet.
New school, new friends. When I'm rich, I wanna drive in a Benz. And it's where my heart is. It's 7 where I started. Made my old friends, we parted. I'm so hungry, I'm fasting. Made my old friends, we parted. I'm so hungry, I'm fasting.
Yeah, I'm really trying to get paper. Move for me if you're being a hater. No. Sometimes I feel more love from a stranger. I beg your God, please don't leave me from danger. Yeah, I'm trying to succeed. Trying to make this P, trying to make ends meet. Yeah, I'm trying to succeed. Trying to make this P, trying to make ends meet. It's the dreams I'm trying to chase. I can't get them out my brain. Sometimes I don't really get my way. Hoping my child can explore the path I paved. Only God can show me the way. Listen to the words I say.
Yeah, I'm really trying to get this. Inspire young people, I can take that off my checklist. Sometimes it feels like I'm moving reckless. One day I hope that I can leave my mother stressless. I've been grinding all day, I'm feeling restless. Mom, I love you, hope you get this. Been grinding all day, I'm feeling restless. Mom, I love you, I hope you get this.
Yeah, I'm really trying to get paper. Move for me if you're being a hater. No. Sometimes I feel more love from a stranger. I beg your God, please don't leave me from danger. Yeah, I'm trying to succeed. Trying to make this P, trying to make ends meet. Yeah, I'm trying to succeed. Trying to make this P,
Really grateful to the foundation for allowing Carissa to have a place at summer school. Financially and physically, I wouldn't be able to do half the activities with her. And she loves the curry. And the staff have been really, really nice and very patient with her. Thank you very much.
To support her work, please do get in contact with us. We're always looking for donations, but also we're also looking for volunteers. You may have some skills that you can be able to support us with. You may say to us, you know what, I would love to mentor young people. Do get involved and let us know how we together can support more young people.
more love from a stranger. I beg your God, please don't leave me from danger. Yeah, I'm trying to succeed. Trying to make this P, trying to make ends meet. Yeah, I'm trying to succeed. Trying to make this P, trying to make.
Okay, thank you. That was a very good start and to give us some visual ideas of the work that you're doing. So Magdalene.
Thank you. And good afternoon to each and every one of you. It's lovely to be here. And I want to say, if I were thank you to Nina. Nina was the one that kind of started the whole process. We met at another networking event, that's next. And then Nina obviously did the introduction to Carol. And thank you so much. And all of this was worked together with the support of Carolina University. So in terms of Music Relief and the work that we do, so I started Music Relief Foundation over 10 years ago. January will make 11 years. I started it as a result of my personal experience. 22, almost 23 years, it's going to be 23 in January. I found myself pregnant as a teenage mom here in London, England. So I'm Nigerian, wasn't born in this country, born in Nigeria, and brought to this country in 92. My parents and younger sister. My parents had met and married here in the UK as students. They came from Sweden and they met in the UK, got married, and they went back home, just for better, I guess, to stay back home in 79, and then I came a year later, 1980. And so I did the whole thing, had myself and my younger sister, and they decided they want to come back. So my mom came first, and then my dad brought the two of us here. Coming to the United Kingdom was a massive culture shock because we came in March, and for some reason that year was extremely cold. I remember coming out after going through luggages and coming out to where you're going to meet your people. I felt the cold. I was like, no way, I'm going back to a apartment. No way. And my mom was there waving. I hadn't seen her for a year because she had left us for a year. So I was like, who is this woman? Is she still alive? I didn't know. So anyways, long story short, we came to the country, I guess, for greener pastures. I finished off primary school that summer and then started secondary school. I experienced bullying. And bullying was not something I was used to. So I'm coming from a place back home where I'm confident. I, in a sense, was doing youth work without actually knowing that it was youth work because I didn't know the terminology. I was kind of gathering all the kids from the neighborhood together, running Sunday school, so they were plucking me on top of the table, and I was teaching Sunday school. So I had all this confidence. So to come here now, and then the kids were laughing at me because of my accent, that was something that was really shocking to me. Because I'm like, I'm speaking English, but it's just the way I'm pronouncing certain words. Simple example of here I've since found that we call it rubber, we call it eraser. I'm like, okay, so what's the difference? I was thinking I have the eraser, and the way I said it by accent. And so that was something that they were mocking me with. And so it knocked my confidence. And so finished the primary school, going into secondary school, because it was just a few months, and then the summer came in. So I was thinking, yeah, that's good. That's it. Let's finish with that. Let's start with this new chapter. Little did I know that the best was yet to come in secondary school. And so kids can be very, very, very good. But anyways, I was able to kind of maneuver it. And then we had so many issues with housing, having to move, left the school, went to a place that was more predominantly white than where I was actually coming from. But I actually fit in more there than I did with my parents who were more from the BME background. So I was like, okay, so was there for a year, and then with housing situation, went back again to South London, and then ironically came back to the same school. But by this time, confidence had grown. My younger sister was able to get the accent very quick. So I was like, you need to teach me this thing. It's the accent, let's get it. But now came back to the secondary school, but continued. And so as you grow up, teenagers and hormones and everything, girls liking boys, boys liking girls, all of those likes. But I was able to finish secondary school without any of those thoughts in mind, because parents are very strict and pastors at the same time. Went into sixth form, that's when things began to change, because there was this guy and everybody seemed to like this guy. And I wrote a book about it, and I call him the guy with the brown eyes, the big brown eyes. I didn't want to put his name there. And it was a case of a friend was saying to me, oh, this guy, such and such. I finally met with him, trying to hook him up with a friend. But long story short, we then got together. And then I fell pregnant with my son, my eldest, in 99. And then 5 years later, I had my second in 2004. But that relationship was with kids was not to be. But anyways, we went for the divorce, and then I remarried in 2008. I got married in 2008. I was working in Barclays. I started working there. My first ever job. So I didn't have a Saturday job. First ever Saturday, whatever job you want to call it, was working in Barclays. And so my parents at that time, when I finished, thank God my mom turned around helping with the children. I finished college, and then I said, no, I want to work. So that's when I started working. She then, they were adamant that I went to university when I finished college. And they wanted me to then study maths and statistics. Now I can pronounce the word statistics. At that time, I could not pronounce it. I'm like, okay, African parents, we are very much engineers, doctors, lawyers, anything else, those are not relevant. And I was like, no, so we had a big fight about that. But thank God I won. But 2008, Hobby came into the scene. He was like, you are very much into music. You need to go to university. You just can't sit at home. Again, that was another fight, because I'm like, I've not been to university. It's been almost 10 years now, to any form of educational background. But he won, and then I went to University of East London. Loved the 3 years. I studied music industry management. Loved it, because it opened my mind. Prior to going to university, I wanted to be the next Beyonce, because Destiny's Child had just split up, and then Beyonce was now. Beyonce was now coming, starting her solo thing. So I was like, okay, she's in America. I'm going to be the Beyonce in the UK. So that was that. So I was made redundant with Barclays. I was at home for a year, and the mortgage was piling up, but I was adamant I was going to be the next Beyonce. But then when I went into university and I studied, and I began to understand what it meant to have a record deal and everything. And I remember in one of the semesters, we had an entertainment lawyer come down and break everything down. I was like, oh, so that's what it is. But fast track that to 2011, when I finished, pregnant with my fourth child by that time, I said, my family now are like, okay, now you've got your degree, go back to Barclays. It's been over many years that you've been made redundant. Now you can go back, because at that time you had to be off for 2 years. I was like, I don't want to go back to that corporate world. I want to do something that's relatable to my experience. And so we had just moved to Croydon at that time, and the riots were taking place. I started in Tottenham, and it came to Croydon. Croydon is massive. It can be classed as a town of its own. At its own, it just went to another level in terms of the riots and all the chaos that it caused. And I remember going around, I wanted to talk to mother and babies, teenage moms, because obviously that was my experience. And where do I go to? So my university was helping me with the idea of putting things together, but I was having this hunger to go out and speak to teenage moms, and I did that. But then I started to hear something called mother and baby units, which at my time, that was nothing like that. So I was intrigued. I was like, what is this thing called mother and baby unit? They introduced me to it, and I went there and I spoke to some of these ladies without having anything in mind. I just didn't know what it was, but I knew I wanted to speak to teenage moms. But I was facing a lot of anger. And not necessarily towards me, but I guess I was there because they're in these mother and baby units, but dads are not meant to be there. And most of the time, families had turned their backs on them. So there was all this anger. But the more I went out, the more I saw that, okay, there is a need. But one thing I did, coming from the business background, because in as much as music industry management was under the business school, was that I needed to network. So at one point, I was networking literally 6 days a week. My mom, may her soul rest in peace, was happy. I just had the boy then, the fourth child, and so she was happy to look after him. I remember when going back to networking after giving birth was 3 months after giving birth, and I was eager to go back. And so the more I went out, the more I saw that I needed to kind of open it up, not just for young teenage moms, but for young people as a whole. 2015, we finally registered as a limited by guarantee with the directors. We sat down and began to speak. Magdalene, what do you want to do? And we continued. 2019, we knew that we wanted to become a charity. It took us a lot of trials and errors and just giving up in total, but finally got status in 2019. And then where we are right now, we now provide not just in terms of music, because we've been doing kind of ad hoc music sessions because of the fact that funding was obviously one of the key issues. But we deliver workshops, like I mentioned in the video, in schools, intervention and prevention workshops centered around youth violence. We have the holiday scheme, like again shown in the videos. And just next month, we're launching MRF Music School, so MRF Music Relief Foundation Music School, where we'll be delivering vocal lessons for 6 to 100 years old. So it's not just for the young people, and then for instruments as well, starting off with keyboard and guitar. But that's specifically for the young people, 6 to 16 years old. In 2018, we were approached by another organization saying that we've got 3 pieces of music. We want to work with 3 sets of young people to bring in about different genres. And that was interesting for me as a musician, because I know the power of music and how you're able to combine all these different genres, which enables you to open your mind. So we had Sangeeta, which was classical music, Indian music. We had Friday Music and Arts, who were coming with classical music, and then our young people came in now, bringing the urban part of it, and they had to interpret this music, and that for me was interesting because I was like, okay, how are these guys who are very much drill music and this kind of music? How are you going to interpret it? But it was good that the guy gave them 2 songs that they were able to write to the music in terms of, one was very much about issues of youth violence, but the other one's all centered around youth racism and talking about the fact that we are all one irrespective of this color of our skin. So Oliver Sacks, musicologist, I got to hear about Oliver Sacks when I was at uni. He says, we turn to music, we need it because of its ability to move us, to induce feelings and moods, states of mind, the power of music. In 2006, after the split up of ex-husband, I met somebody else, and then we had relationship was going well, so I thought, but then we broke up. And so I was going through that feeling like you do when you break up from a relationship. And there was a song that came out from this artist. I've never heard of him before, but he'd been in the scene writing songs, but then he started to sing the songs called Neo. And it came out this song called So Sick. That was a song 2006. I'll never forget that song. And I remember listening to the song the first time, ever. And I sat there and I cried and I was like, Neo, how dare you? Who told you about my life story? Who told you about what I'm going through? Because every single thing that he said was about a breakup, was exactly what I was going through. 2016, I listened to the song again. I'm in a better place this time around. However, I was able to still conjure up those same feelings, not too much, but that I had in 2006. As I talk about it now, I can still just imagine everything I was going through in 2006. That is the power of music. Music is the only thing that can translate you from today to 1976 or 1906, wherever you are. The previous speaker talked about, she showed us different images and she was saying, tell me what you're thinking. And the word that came to my mind was freedom. Because when you are singing, oh gosh, his name is literally just skipped my head. Gareth Gates, I think it was Gareth Gates. When he came up and did the Pop Idol, it was him and Will Young. Will Young won it, and then I think he was the next person. Gareth Gates at that time was a massive stammerer. He could not speak without him stammering. But when he opened his mouth to sing, it was like, wow. Now, obviously, he's gone for so many vocal training and he's okay. That's something I will never forget because of the power of singing and music. I understand how it has helped me to build confidence. And what I say to people is that we are actually all singing, we are all musical. It's just the fact that we just don't add melody to what we're saying. Now I'm speaking to you, I'm actually speaking to you. But if I was to add melody to it and then begin to create a beat, that's music. So on that note, looking at my time and knowing that I'm almost done, can I please indulge each and every one of you to please rise up, please? We're going to sing 2 lines. I've literally just wrote it down there. So 2 lines. So the lines are, I am happy to be here. I am happy to be here. I've learned so much today. So if I can just get you to say it. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here. Okay. So one thing I always want to suggest to be uniform. Yeah. I am happy to be here. I am happy to be here. I've learned so much today. I've learned so much today. Do it 2 more times. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here. I've learned so much today. I've learned so much today. Last time. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here. I've learned so much today. I've learned so much today. So we've spoken it, now we're going to sing it. Okay, so take my lead. I'm happy to be here. I've learned so much today. I'll sing it again. I'm happy to be here. I've learned so much today. Want to go? Sorry?
Can we dance?
Oh, please. It's all rhythm, exactly. So I'll sing it one more time. I'm happy to be here. I've learned so much today. Let's do it. I'm happy to be here. I've learned so much today. 2 more times. I'm happy to be here. I've learned so much today. Last time. I'm happy to be here. I've learned so much today. Fantastic. Sit down. In conclusion, just listening to everything that I've heard so far when I came in, it's really a case of us understanding how powerful music can do in the sense of some form of escapism, being able to release every emotion that are kind of built up because of the different things that we've been through. We were opportuned to work with Africa in 2014 with some of the young people who were trafficked. And just seeing them being able, you talked about when the survivors had their event and they came forward to do impromptu speeches. When we're going through our session, getting some of these young ladies who knows them, who already knew themselves, to just come forward and just introduce themselves. It was just like a case of, if the ground would open up now, I want it to open up. That's how much, at the beginning of the session. By the time we concluded the session, it was a totally different case. The power of music. Thank you so much.
Thank you.